I'm joined by Mr. Kyle Bosman.
Hey, everybody.
You're looking really nice tonight, Kyle.
Oh, you were looking very nice tonight.
Thank you so much. I'll explain just exactly why we're looking so nice tonight in just a second, but I want to introduce our guest, Mr. Arne Meyer from Naughty Dog.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are playing, there it is coming right in the background, we are playing the Uncharted Collection, which came out last week, which I'm sure you've been very busy with. Yeah, Mr. Mike Huber is on the couch,
shopping.
passionately playing the game, flanked by Mr. Ben Moore and Mr. Brad Ellis. Mike Huber is a big fan, to say the least. We have some introduction stuff to get out of the way, and then we can just let him gush all over this franchise. But he's very excited about it. But specifically, really quick, before we get into the awesomeness of all that is Uncharted, I want to talk about why Kyle and I look so snazzy today. Today we are celebrating Formal Friday, which is coming up this Friday. And what Formal Friday is a chance to donate for guys that don't have suits, that need suits to get jobs. And so if you tweet on if you send out a message on Instagram with the hashtag Formal Friday this Friday, and you take a picture, of yourself looking all snazzy, then Made Man, which is another channel here at Defy Media, will donate $1 to Career Gear, which is an organization that raises money and funds, and more importantly, clothing for men who can't get a job because they can't get dressed up for it. So it is Formal Friday this week. Defy Media across all the brands is doing all sorts of formal stuff. So you look pretty formal. I didn't give you the heads up. I probably should have. But so that's what we are doing today. So if you guys want to contribute to that, you can get on Instagram. You can take pictures. Again, hashtag is Formal Friday, and you can go to made.mn/Formal Friday for all the info on what Formal Friday is. So that is why we're dressed up. Everyone on Defy Media is doing it. They said, what show should we get dressed up for? I said, of course, GT Live. Because we've done that before. We've worn suits on the stage before, so it's not.
Yeah.
It's not so weird.
Feels comfy.
Which actually leads into my first question. Which is cheap, but I'll ask it anyway. Is Nathan Drake a gentleman?
He is. He has a tuxedo on for the
This
VGA. Whatchamacallit? The VGA awards that we did for it, and
he's worn formal gear in the series.
and
I
worn.
can imagine him in formal gear.
He's pretty formal right here at the
in
beginning of the game.
Uncharted 3,
Yeah.
as well.
So
he knows how to dress up.
So does the suit make the man? Is that what being a gentleman? You just gotta look snazzy.
It's the Henley and a half tuck makes the man.
Private party.
Ian, did you just rock guitar us?
Yeah,
back to the stage.
I still had the guitar transition on from the Battle of the Bands.
We were playing Rock Band earlier in the week on the stage. We still have some of the transitions loaded up.
Yep.
So congratulations on the launch of Uncharted.
Thank you.
How explain to the viewers what your involvement is specifically with Naughty Dog and with the Uncharted collection.
Sure. So at Naughty Dog, what I do is I basically do all the communications work. So like any blog, social media, being a spokesperson. So I just came back from 2 weeks in Europe talking about Uncharted Nathan Drake collection. I helped put together a lot of the trailers and screenshots and everything with the team back there. And so with Naughty Dog, so we had a developer out of Austin, Texas called Bluepoint, who's working on remastering the collection for us. And so for us, it was giving them source code, giving them assets, giving them help trying to find lost files. I saw a few people at the studio having some of the Uncharted stuff up on their screen, so they were probably working out on helping them out with some of the shaders and stuff like that, because we have a lot of things that work very well inside of the studio, and once we send it out for people to create, I mean, we've had people try to create CGI trailers and stuff like that. Like, it just doesn't work. Like, everything kind of has to stay in-house because, like, everything is,
it's not just
perfectly
difficult,
managed.
It flat out doesn't work. So you would not... Is that something you would not recommend other people do as well, or is that just it doesn't work for
It's
for
just
you
for
guys?
us. Like, the way that our shaders are rigged to everything, the way that our tools work, it's very hard for someone to take that out of house and end up with the same results that we do inside the studio, especially if they're using different tools. It's like, oh, yeah, we'll give you a Maya file or something. It won't look the same at the end of the day.
Are you saying somewhere out there there's a failed CG trailer for Uncharted 2?
There might be some failed CG tests.
Cool. That's interesting.
there.
And then it's just like you weren't feeling the vibes of it. It just doesn't look right.
Yeah, a lot of it's just we get some tests back, or we'll get some video back, and it's basically the first step to evaluate if you want to do a trailer or something like that. And we'll take a look and go, well, it's not really working, and like, what is it? And pretty quickly, very very early on, we can determine, oh yeah, like just it has to be captured in house and that sort of thing. So a lot of times when we have had trailers, we try to have people come in house to capture all of the footage because it just has to be inside the studio.
I have a question about Blue Point in particular.
Sure.
Because Blue Point is basically best in the biz when you're doing like an HD remaster. Do you come to them or do they come to you? How does that relationship work? Are they like I imagine they're pretty busy.
Yeah, I think they're pretty busy. I think people probably reach out to them a lot. In this case, this was sort of like love at first sight for both of us. They really loved the Uncharted series. We thought they were really great, and as we were trying to find who could do the remastered series, because we worked with, I can't remember who it was on the Jack HD series. There are obviously people that we know that do this, and Blue Point really played the Uncharted games. They really love the Uncharted games. So when they came up with a proposal, they blew us away with what they wanted to do. They're really ambitious. They were like, we're not going to do a remaster. We want to do all these fixes. We've read all the stuff the community said about the games. We want to do all these different things and add these new modes in. And they actually held off on doing some projects in hopes that we would actually select them for it. So they passed up some other AAA projects, which they never told me about. But one of these days, after a few beers,
we can
I'm
guess.
sure we can find out.
We can guess too. Yeah.
It really worked out that we both thought we'd be a great partner, and it just happened to work out. It just took a little bit of time.
How inevitable is a collection like this? Like how because I mean it's console exclusive. You have Uncharted 4 coming out, so like there seems so many reasons why this would be a no-brainer. And I know sometimes things can appear like oh, that would of course happen, but actually on the inside there's a lot of it's never really a sure thing. Was this a sure thing?
It's something we've been talking about for a really long time before we really got running on the whole process. So we actually started talking about potentially putting a collection together before Last of Us Remastered was even a possibility. So somewhere towards the end of completing The Last of Us. So we've been talking about this for a while. I think The Last of Us Remastered and success behind that, and the fact that we'd heard, and Shuhei talked about this a couple weeks ago, that 50% of people on PS4 never had a PS3 is a huge number. So it's like, there's a lot of people that never got to play Uncharted, never got to experience all the games, so why not give it to them? I know I've been to like PAX and like other fan conventions, and people have asked me, are you going to release this on PC or Xbox? Which is always, funny and awkward to explain that we're not. But I think that's just, people have heard about the game. There's a lot of people who haven't had a chance to play it. So for us, it was like, well, let's give them the opportunity to do that. It works really well leading up to Uncharted 4. You've got this great narrative arc, so why not do it?
Do you think it functions better, to kind of remind people of the older stuff and kind of, I don't want to say cash in, because that carries like negative connotations, but just, find value in, even in the PS4 era, Uncharted 1 through 3. Or, the other half of it is leading people up to Uncharted 4. Do you think it's kind of an even 50-50 split, or favoring the old Uncharted stuff versus the new Uncharted stuff?
I don't know how that falls out. I mean, I think it's really funny when we get questions about, like what's it like about replaying the game, and won't people know the story or things like that, and about the older people. And I just kept saying, well, it doesn't preclude you from watching movies over and over again.
Right.
Some people play games several times. Just even if you know the story, there's still some enjoyment to it. So I think it's between that and the new players. I think there's a lot of reason to play it, and I think that's one of the reasons why it was great for Blue Point to come up with ways to fix things and add new modes. And kind of the tagline that we've been throwing around is, well, this is sort of the ultimate expression of all the Uncharted games, because we took everything we knew from all three games and applied it equally to all three games. So it's fixing some stuff. It's trying to sort of make everything equal or all balanced between all three games.
How long have you been with Naughty Dog, and what's your experience just as far as the Uncharted franchise as a whole?
Sure, I've been with Naughty Dog for 7 years now, so I got started just before we announced Uncharted 2, like a few months earlier before that.
Does this bring back any memories, just working on the collection?
Oh yeah, it does. It did quite a bit, because one of the first games that Blue Point got up and running was Uncharted 2. So for me, that was a little bit of nostalgia for me, is to go back and look at those games. So that was the first thing I booted up to try to see what was working, what was running. So when we got kind of the close to final build recently, that was the first part of the game that I went back. But I also remember hammering at Uncharted Drake's Fortune about 4 times before I went in for my interview at Naughty Dog, because I'd played it once, but I was like, all right, like I really need to know my stuff. So I also went back and played it, and it was one of the things that was really jarring after playing Uncharted 2 before, was to go back to Uncharted 1 and try to play it, and the aiming was like really bad. But everyone knew that. We knew that. And that's something that's been addressed here, but to go back and sort of do that and then go, hey, like this game really kind of holds up on PS4, and with a lot of the upgraded particle effects and the graphics and stuff like that. And I actually had one of the guys from the studio who worked on the U-boat scene come by. He just caught me playing it over the shoulder, and no one else really had a build at the studio yet. So he was like, "Oh, what are you playing? Like, can I watch?" And so he had worked on that scene. He was like walking around. He was like telling me, he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember like doing that, and the skybox is great, and like look at how round this is. Like, they did a really good job." And I was like, "All right." So from the guy who like poured over every single little detail, he said, "Oh yeah, they did a good job." So I think Bluepoint really nailed it.
What do you think? I love collections like you were saying, because even, you know, if a game came out last January, I might, like Red Dead Redemption is a classic example. I played that game 100 times. You know, if that came out. Anything specifically that you would like to see remastered in the new gen that you've already played in last gen that you're like, I would totally play that again?
There are very few games that I like to replay. So with Uncharted Collection, I never played the first one. And so then, like, this is an opportunity for me to finally play that first one, because it would be, I don't know, it'd be weird. Like you said, it'd be weird to go and play Uncharted 1 now. And so it is cool to just bring it up to standards in a certain way. You know what I mean? You don't have to flip the controller to throw grenades or anything like that.
And just instantly see that evolution, you know? It's like, at the same time, you want to streamline all the games, you know, to make them all compatible, but you also, there is fun in seeing how the series has evolved, you know, like immediately going from 1 to 2 and then 2 to 3, and noticing like, oh wow, they, you know, look at everything that they added, instead of, oh, it's just the same experience the whole time.
Yeah, and I mean, you'll still get that experience of how we iterated and built on top of everything before. I think it's stuff like that aiming that we addressed. I think one of the things that was big for us was, because we always talk about our games being like grounded in the universe and the environment and feeling really real, you know, within the stylized, realistic universe. Adding screen space ambient occlusion to the first game was really big for us. Adding motion blur options to all 3 games, but to the first one was big for us. Just a few of the technologies that we got really proud of over working across all 3 games.
And you were commenting on that, Hebert, that actually, like, people would think, oh, you know, Uncharted 1 playthrough would be the roughest experience, but at the same time, because it's being up-res to a new gen, like those are the biggest differences. Actually,
it's been improved the most out of all of them, because like you were saying too, the aiming, I know they made it a lot better in this, and like the just going to the jungle for the first time in Uncharted 1 was the most intense thing of this remaster playing through it. So I was like, whoa, this looks crazy.
Well, and those arena battles are a little bit better, right? That was tuned a little bit too.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Uncharted of the 3?
It's always been Uncharted 2, just because that's the first one I worked on, right? And at that time, I really liked what Naughty Dog did with Drake's Fortune, but at the time coming in and seeing the ambition for Uncharted 2, I was just like, whoa, like, we're in for a ride. And then just sort of seeing that come to fruition. So that's always going to have a special place in my heart for sure.
Huber goes straight to Uncharted 3. Doesn't, you know, not doing an evolution through the stream, just
going straight
there.
Yeah.
So are you gonna maybe pop into another one before the stream is done?
I figured we'd go for the second half. We'd go to 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's crack open 2.
Go backwards. Mix it up.
You talk about how behind the scenes Naughty Dog seemed ambitious going into 2. Can you talk more to that? Like what they said to you while they're in development, like what they plan to expand upon? Because to me, like Uncharted 1 to 2 is huge. That's a huge jump.
So I found out about their ambitions later, but to me, the first impact of the ambitions was when I got my desk and I got my kit, and I loaded up to see, oh, like, what are they doing with Uncharted 2, and like learn all the tools and like figure out how to use a PS3 dev kit, because I've never used it before.
Yeah.
And basically kind of like the game design vision that they had that sort of also led with technology was starting with the the train sequence in Uncharted 2, where it goes around the lake and goes up into the mountains, and that was the first section that they had playable.
Really? They started with that?
Started with that, even with the idea that like we didn't even know how that was going to fit into the game.
Mm-hmm.
It was just sort of like, here's what we want to do with technology. Here's a really good idea, a slice of how we want to do gameplay, and then use that to build the game, or a lot of the game around it. So we didn't know what we were going to do with it, and that ended up being the last part to get completed because it was so complex with what we were doing, and it really informed everything else. I think we used to write our own physics engine. I think we threw out like 2 versions of that before we settled in on middleware, because it was just really hard to get that going. So
I'm sorry, what does that mean to like make a physics engine and feel it not working? Like, what do you see that says like this isn't working?
A lot of it was performance at the time, so it wasn't it was like taking up too much memory, or we weren't getting the frame rate that we did, because at the end of the day, it's all a balance, right, between memory allocation between whether you can get the frame rate with all the effects you want on it, whether the physics engine is refreshing at the speed that you want. There's a bunch of different things, or maybe it's just not working as realistically as you want in terms of what you would expect for realistic objects. There's a lot of different things.
And this is a showcase. This is all eyes are on this. This is something that's really going to demonstrate. And as right now all eyes are on Uncharted 4 to really see what's possible in the new system. So
yeah, of course. But we thought so that is what impressed me, because I was like, well, I saw what they were doing there, and I was just like I said, this was incredibly ambitious.
And that's like your first day on the job, is when you sat down and you saw the train part of the. Oh man, that's so cool.
And it was a thing that I kept playing and was broken. You go back to it and you keep playing, and it really was the thing that you could see come together. But talking to people about afterwards, so Uncharted 1 was kind of really rough on the studio because we were trying to develop a game, an engine, a tools pipeline. We never worked on C++ before. We'd always had our own in-house programming language. So this was like brand new for everyone. We were trying to come up with like game design. Where was this game going? What's the characters going to be like? So everything was a little bit more chaotic. So it was really difficult for us as a studio to do it all. But we ended up with Drake's Fortune. But there were a lot of things where at the end of it, we're like, oh man, we could do so much more. And we could have done this. And all of those basically got poured straight into Uncharted 2. So basically the studio, everyone, instead of taking a break, and some people go on sabbaticals and that sort of thing, basically we started prototyping and coming up with ideas for Uncharted 2 almost immediately. And I think that's what you see is just sort of this like, oh, we've opened this door to how to really do great things on the PS3, and everyone just wanted to take advantage of it.
Was there any concern that resources put into the collection would take away from Uncharted 4, or is that like an easy thing to separate within the company?
That's one of the reasons we went with Bluepoint, so it wasn't something that we handled in-house, like remastered. And we had a lot of trust with them, and we knew that they would be able to take a lot of stuff and run with it on their own and require minimal oversight in terms of like real heavy lifting. I mean, they've worked on other PlayStation properties doing with the God of War collection and Shadow of the Colossus and Nico, so they sort of knew how to be able to handle stuff on that platform. So that was one of the reasons we worked with them. But a lot of it too, I mean, it's not impactful and something we really wanted to work with them with, which is, I guess, I was kind of thinking about it, it's almost like overall creative direction, right? Like which fixes do we want to do? How do we want to address certain things? Which type of aiming we wanted to put into it? That sort of thing was a little bit of creative direction, but those were easy decisions for us to make collaboratively. And they're really good partners. They would always come up with a whole list of ideas, and they were really organized. So they made our job really easy and didn't really require us to feel like we needed to be very hands-on.
And I think, and Huber, you're pretty pleased with the result so far?
Just a little bit.
Have you played, so where are you? Did you play through all of them again, or did you just kind of dip in and sample each one?
I finished all of them in like 4 days.
Just chronologically, you just went through? And
Yeah.
Do you have a new favorite now, or was there any specific update that you dug more than any other?
It always goes between 2 and 3. I like the characters in 3 more. 2 to me flows better, like the entire arc of the game flows better. 3 kind of is a little disjointed here and there, but just the characters and the way they develop in 3 is my favorite.
Do you have a particular element that you like, just that was upgraded? You were talking about motion and other things that were affected and improved.
Man, I'd have a hard time trying to reduce it to anything. I mean, for me, the biggest thing was the aiming in Uncharted 1, because I remember going back to it, and that was really janky, and I was having a hard time trying to play it again. So at least now I have played it. So now I've been able to enjoy it a lot more than I did going back to it. Actually, it's funny. One of the things I really like is moving the aiming and shoot down to the lower trigger buttons, because that feels more natural than the top shoulder buttons, and it's something that it felt weird for me to always go back to that. But that's something I really like, because it feels natural now.
Well, the triggers are better on PS4.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I really hate those PS3 triggers. They're the worst. Is it weird though that like there's probably nothing left for Bluepoint to do with Naughty Dog? It's like, hey, we have nothing left to remaster. What,
You're all caught up.
Yeah, is that weird? Is that like, what do we do next?
We could take the PS3 HD remake of Jack and put it on PS4.
Yeah, you're right. There's still opportunities.
There's other ways to do it.
Yeah.
No, I think this was a great project for us to work on. I mean, the Bluepoint guys are great, so it is kind of sad that I will no longer go to Austin on professional reasons, but I can go for pleasure and hit them up.
Cool.
How much are you focused on this now as opposed to Uncharted 4? Like, you don't have to get into specific stuff of what you're working on, but like how much will you focus on Uncharted Collection to make sure people are aware of it, leading up to the holidays and stuff like that? Is this like a major priority for you right now?
Yeah, it is. I mean, like I said, I just came back from 2 weeks, or just over 2 weeks in Europe to talk about the game. So that's a large chunk of my time not in the office and not answering emails pretty regularly. But yeah, we'll probably keep doing this for about another month or so, and then you'll see another spike towards the holidays and stuff like that. But after this is really on like PlayStation's hands to promote it. They've got all the money.
Do they ask more interesting questions in Europe?
It's really funny when you go around Europe, like each country,
Yeah.
they do have different questions that they sort of focus on, and you get a vibe in terms of what they're interested. Germany's usually a little bit more story focused. They've always liked their action adventure games there and their adventure games, so they tend to focus a little bit more talking about the genre at a little bit more high level. So you're sitting down, you're having slightly more philosophical talks with them. Other territories or other countries, they'll be a little bit more nitty gritty. They want to know about the tech, or they'll just ask you like what's your favorite part in the Uncharted series, or what challenges have you faced. So a little bit more of the normal stuff that you would expect, but it's really interesting because you can sort of see how as you go in, you're like, oh, I haven't been asked that before. You can
Who gets into the tech the most? Which country?
oh man, that's Spain actually got into the tech a lot this time around. I've seen certain people from Germany really get into it, actually, and like to the point where they're really testing my knowledge.
Yeah.
It's like I work at the studio, but I didn't like actually program everything.
Yeah.
So it gets to be that way. We get people from the UK doing that quite a bit, but there's a lot of journalists out there that's kind of their forte, is to take a look at the tech of the games and things like that. Like Digital Foundry, obviously, is a big name for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So behind the scenes is Mr. Ian Hank, working the TriCaster, who used to have a camera on. Do you have a camera? Did we find a camera?
No, Screen Junkies is using the SDI converter box, so I have no camera.
We don't need to air out that dirty laundry.
It's not dirty laundry, it's just facts.
It's Formal Friday
It's
after
just
all.
the facts. It's just the facts. I'm not angry about it because I'm not wearing. Oh wait, I'm wearing the best suit, so it's a real shame.
Oh yeah,
that
yeah,
I
you
don't
can't,
have
it's a
camera.
shame you can't see him because
Yeah,
Ian looks
I got a
really,
tux on.
really
It's
good. He
fantastic.
he shaved his head. He looks really, he looks really slick.
fantastic.
Do you like that Uncharted series? Probably shouldn't have too long of a conversation if I can't see you.
Well, I played 2 for a half an hour, and I got really irritated with sticking to cover because the controls were being weird, and then I stopped playing. But I'm looking forward to playing this collection because I want to give it a shot.
You like yourself a PS4 exclusive. There tends
I
to be
do.
things coming exclusively to PS4 that you dig.
I do, and
So-
Uncharted 4 looks cool, and I'd like to understand the story. So
What do you think? And the rest of the couch hasn't spoken out. Brad, you commented a little bit. Uncharted fan, Ben? Uncharted fan?
Yeah, I am mostly referred to as a weeaboo around the office, but I am actually like a huge Uncharted fan. Yeah, Uncharted 2 is probably like straight up my favorite PS3 game. So
More
I like,
than Metal Gear Solid 4.
yeah,
Like Uncharted 2.
yeah, I like Uncharted 2 more than Metal Gear Solid 4.
Speaking of so speaking of nostalgia, that's kind of like what we're talking about tonight. Just like those old PS3 days. You think back
So long ago.
way back then. I mean, it's also got to be easy too that it's HD. I mean, I know they do great work. With all the collections that they work on, but that's kind of nice. It's like, oh, well, we at least have that. There's no crazy aspect ratios to deal with, and
No aspect ratios, but they went from 720 to 1080.
This is true.
And they went from 30 to basically 60. Like, that's no mean feat to begin with.
I like to call things easy that are way more difficult than anything that I ever do ever.
Thanks for calling him out on that. We appreciate that.
And they threw in a bunch more stuff to it and increased the frame rate. So,
And fixed shooting.
yeah. They just had a button, actually.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
the-
yeah,
it was
but
a
I
make
mean,
it
if you-
make it more HD button.
But if you have something like the rare replay that just has like different consoles and all sorts of different stuff, you kind of jumble everything together.
So you're saying
it's
Rare
nice
Replay took more work than Uncharted Collection?
I'm
Is that
just saying.
what you're trying to say?
I'm just saying it's there are other things that you have to focus on. I'm trying to imagine what it's like to be them,
Rare Replay,
and
they just shit
figure out
out
what's
the box.
challenges working on one collection versus
they
challenges
just
working on the other.
copy-pasted Rare Replay. They didn't even make them look different. that not
What,
true?
what other collections can we bash while we're talking about it?
They did make
Oh,
a
I
list
thought
back.
they
But
made
in my attempt to bring up warm fuzzy feelings into the
Yeah.
room, speaking of nostalgia and the glory days,
Yeah.
we did not have a GT Live last week because of scheduling changes, so we didn't talk about the countdown that we did last week. But thankfully, we're doing 2 countdowns, one last week and one this week. They're the same theme. We took a countdown and we split it into 2. We're doing 20 entries because there were just so many damn entries that came up when we were talking about that, and that was the top 20 NES games. So we didn't talk about our number 11s or our number 21s, if you will.
Yeah.
We got a bunch of them. I made a huge list of all of the unfortunate entries
That did not make the
that
cut.
didn't make the list. But since you are a special guest today, and you know you've been dealing with nostalgia and chatting with people about it, what fond memories do you have of the NES? Is there anything that if you were going to do a top 20 that absolutely would have to be on it?
Hockey would definitely have to be on it.
Hockey.
Wait, why
the
hockey?
4-player one. Well,
Were
first of
there-
all, I play hockey.
Yeah.
But the one that was it was only was it 3?
There's like 3 different
Yeah, the 3 different.
sizes.
Yeah, the really big dude, the
Yeah.
really skinny dude is fast, and like
Yeah.
the average one, yeah, and the goalie. I don't know, because I played hockey, and that was my first way to be like, all right, like I'm gonna play hockey like on a console. That I mean, imagine you've never been able to do that before, and you can't go play street hockey or go out on the ice. So.
And that
I
you
really
like it held up, like you still like that game, like
Oh, it's still amusing.
sure.
But it's interesting that hockey never made it onto like other Nintendo consoles. Like tennis did, golf did. From that NES.
You're saying Nintendo
Those
abandoned
original
hockey?
NES sports games. Yeah.
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 I wonder if there are other. I mean, Duck Hunt, obviously, but I wonder if there's any other like NES sports games that didn't. That
You
just
put Duck
didn't,
Hunt
did
as
not
a
move
NES
on.
Sports game.
Actually,
Show you how good this looks really quick. Like, this is ridiculous.
oh, we're in London,
Oh,
yeah,
you
dude.
get all the London skyline.
Some PS3 game right here.
Yep.
That's all. I'm sorry.
Actually,
Jump to my bed.
but actually, like into hockey, I think is legit. Before that simple, like normal guy, big guy, small guy, actually is like a really interesting game design in a sports game. Do you know what I mean? Actually, yeah, that's a legit pick. It did not make the list.
No. Well,
Neither did RBI baseball, but RBI baseball was definitely
Oh,
one
yeah.
of
That
on
should've-
the NES. One of
that
my
should've been
favorite
on the
sports
list.
games. Also not on the list, unfortunately. Also, kind of a sports game. RC Pro Am racing. Duck Hunt, as we mentioned, didn't make the list. I think that's it for sports games. But Goonies 2, which I dearly love, which is a big fan favorite of mine, but I did not expect it to make the top
You didn't even
20.
fight for it, to be honest. I don't
No,
think
that
you
was,
even
that
brought
was
it
fine.
up.
That was fine. It's just a weird movie tie-in.
Sure.
I don't like it because it does a movie tie-in well, or that's what I would want out of Goonies 2. But I played the hell out of the game. Battletoads didn't make the list.
Yeah.
Which, there's lots of good things to say about Battletoads, but
I
man,
love
when
Battletoads.
you look at those 20 NES, also Metal Gear didn't make the list, which some people would argue not as good as the MSX actual original Metal Gear.
No one would argue
which
that.
you had
That's
to
just
choose
simple
between the two
fact.
you should play.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I don't know.
That's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
correct.
Oh, all right. Well, I
All
feel,
right.
feel bad about that one. What say you about Metal Gear? Is that correct?
I love that Metal Gear.
Number
but
21?
I also never. I would have put it in my top 20, I guess, but I also never played the MSX version.
the hockey
so-
ahead of Metal Gear.
No.
No? Metal Gear ahead of hockey?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Let's talk. I mean, we're not to say our number one, but what is the best NES game?
It's going to be really typical, but it's going to have to be Legend of Zelda. Like, I played that over and over again. My mom played it. Like, we were in it. We were playing together as a family.
How'd you talk your mom into playing?
She saw me playing it, and
Yeah?
she really liked it, and so she had her own save for it. It was like I would make maps. Like, I actually had like a sort of side business selling maps to friends at school.
No
for it.
way. How many did you sell?
Like 3 maybe, for like a nickel or something.
That is so cool.
That's
though.
pretty good.
So you had your own map and you like recreated the other one based off of that. And then
No,
you,
I,
like,
I
consult-
photocopied them.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
But
Nice.
I did make the original one because it was in was it Nintendo Magazine, the one that was before Nintendo Power. I was at the Fan Club magazine.
Whoa.
They had like the blank versions of all the Legend of Zelda maps.
And then
Like,
you
it was
would
all
fill them
gridded.
in?
Yeah, and I would fill them in with like where
What's there,
you
yeah.
could where all the bombs were, and then I would take graph paper and do all of the different.
So you're not in this market anymore.
No, I'm not selling strategy guides as
No?
a side business out of my garage for a nickel.
That is so cool.
If I'd only known how big strategy guides we get at that point.
Well, I mean, if I pick up these old Uncharted games I haven't played before, I get stuck. I can't turn to you.
Yeah,
There's
you
no
can come by.
There's no graph paper stacks you
I'll
have somewhere.
I'll photocopy you a map.
Oh, that would be so sweet. Those are the good old days. We'll never get back to that, right? I mean, even like mobile games or like even like Metroidvania style, awesome like
I gotta
Shovel
disagree with
Knighty.
this.
Like You just go straight to the web. Somebody's done it already.
No way.
I'm not gonna make my own.
Absolutely. When we were playing through Bloodborne, it was absolutely that thing where it's just like, dude, how do I get through this thing? This is how
But
you
I mean,
do it.
actually, like pen to paper, like drawing.
Oh, sure.
map.
Yeah, we're probably done with that.
Mine was a Jurassic Park for the Super Nintendo.
You drew a map for that?
I drew hella maps for that.
Brandon, actually, games like Myst, or I'm playing a game on my phone right now called The Guides, where Don and I were sitting there. We're writing out ciphers and like codes and stuff on paper, stuff like that. You have to write on paper.
I did that for. Oh man, I can't believe I'm having a hard time remembering it. The people who did Sailor's Dream. It was like 9, the iOS game.
I've never heard of
Sailor's
Sailor's
Dream.
No, yeah, I know this, but I can't remember who made it.
Oh
remember.
man, I'm having
Then
such
you're
a hard
worthless,
time
Ian.
I'll
remembering.
Google
And
it.
it was an iOS game. It was so good. It was one where it was basically like a text narrative with puzzles in it, and you would actually have to rotate to read the text. I can't believe I'm blanking on the name. This is gonna kill me.
But you were taking paper notes
I was
for
taking
it.
paper notes for it. This was the only way to solve it. Was to
You'll
take
get the
paper
name
notes.
about 5 minutes
Yeah,
after we
I'm
stop
sure.
broadcasting today.
I feel like Fez, if you're playing through Fez, you got to take a lot of paper notes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some paper notes games out there, Brandon.
There's a point to Fez, yeah, where I was playing it and I'm like, man, I really should have started taking notes at this point because I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah, and all the languages and things. Yeah, you need it. You need those paper notes.
You will probably not need paper notes for our badass trailer today. This is the exact opposite of a paper notes game. But you love yourself a game announcement, don't you, Kyle?
Oh, I love game
We
announcements.
got a game announcement. We had the tease of a game announcement,
Oh, yeah.
and then the game kind of got announced, and then they actually officially announced it. But Far Cry is going to be Far Cry Primal coming out, and there's a reveal trailer, and it's pretty badass. Check it out.
Mas brashtar, winja.
Sushash, Karticha.
Tushina gwash, saiwakant.
Santuayas, Winchapal.
Suwan brashtar.
Some mixed feelings about Far Cry Primal. Are you excited for Far Cry Primal? I'm pumped. I like me Ubisoft Tower games. I'm a sucker. I'm just gonna put it out there, man. I'm just gonna put it out there. I know some people don't like that. I like them. So that's me.
Oh man, chat was not very nice to that trailer. I gotta be honest. But yeah, whatever. It'll be cool.
It's a debut. It's a big franchise debut. It's got to be the trailer you focus on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was telling Ben, I sleep with this is getting weird. I sleep with a woolly mammoth stuffed animal named Manny that I got at a museum in Chicago.
Isn't Manny the guy from Ice Age?
It is.
Well, there you go. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Okay.
Did you get that at the Field Museum?
So the Field Museum.
Yeah, Field
They had a big
Museum.
woolly mammoth exhibit,
How
and
old were you when you got this?
this was this year.
I was gonna say he just
So-
went there.
Like that Far Cry trailer, man. It's like I don't want to kill these mammoths. I don't want to do this.
Oh,
gotta do
actually,
it.
I got the same vibe.
Yeah.
It's like this is an extinct creature.
Yeah.
I do not want to
But
kill
all
this.
but all the people you slaughter in the Uncharted games,
That's
screw,
fine.
screw those guys.
Kill them all.
It's primal, bro.
Humans aren't extinct like mammoths are. That's the thing I don't want to kill.
This is a pivotal
Give it
point in our
time.
existence, Huber. Evolution.
I felt bad. Made me feel bad.
What do you think about? Are there? I mean, were any animals harmed in the making of the Uncharted series?
No, there's no animals. Well, there are some animals, but like there's no animals that you really encounter up until Uncharted 2.
I tried to kill a toucan.
Which,
in one,
speaking
and it
of
wouldn't let
Uncharted
me.
2, we are in Uncharted 2 now.
There's a toucan, and I tried to shoot it. It wouldn't let me kill the toucan.
Can't kill a toucan.
Also, like going extinct. You shouldn't shoot toucans, everybody. Like,
We're just talking about virtual
I
toucans.
just wanted to see if I could. Yeah. But yeah, the toucans you can't kill.
You could pet a yak.
I love petting the yaks.
Yeah, it's true.
That's probably my favorite part of 2. I freaking love that. Just it opens up and just a whole different vibe for a second.
Can you let that be his favorite part of Uncharted 2? Out of everything in Uncharted 2, that's his favorite part.
yeah.
Are you cool with that?
I'm totally cool with that.
Because I bet you
That
hear
is
lots of weird things.
that
from,
is a great
from
part of it.
fans.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
like,
that's a great part of Uncharted 2. Like total tone shift, and it worked, and everyone liked it. It was a big risk.
Oh, and then you come back through that area. Oh, I'm spoiling things.
No
done that.
spoilers.
Spoiling things from a game from years ago.
How do you handle that? Is that
Yeah.
spoiling? Would you be mad if I said about what?
I think the statute of limitations is over on that. don't
Wow,
you
it's
think?
nice
even
to
on
hear.
Uncharted 3?
Come on, you can go onto YouTube and watch a Let's Play already.
This is true.
Cool.
For a while, why not?
All right. Well, you go back through that area again with combat, and it's like, wow, I was just walking through this area before, and now I'm shooting people in here. This is
See,
crazy.
does that feel better, Kyle?
Yeah, it does.
That
Spoilers
wasn't
is
even
so
a spoiler.
releasing.
I thought you were gonna say all the yaks were dead or something.
No.
That would have
Yaks
been
are
a
fine.
spoiler.
The yaks turn out fine.
Well, then it's fine.
I want to talk a little bit about one of the things I think that's great about Naughty Dog is, and there might be one franchise jump specifically that I'm thinking of, is just the jump from Jack and Daxter series to Uncharted, and there's just something so cool and freeing to me to just be like, well, we're done with that franchise, and we'll just do another awesome AAA. Another franchise that will own this this generation. When you look back, this will be one of the major franchises that you remember from that gen.
We totally had that foresight.
Right, totally. Well, I mean, of course, yeah. I mean, everybody says that, but you have to. There's got to be somebody that it's like, this has got to be. This really, this better be big. It's exclusive to PlayStation 3. It's a brand new venture. It's seriously a step up, visually, because this is not some cartoony world where somebody was turned into some strange fuzzy character. Like, this is a very photorealistic environment. And it's continuing into this gen that we are now. We're moving into Uncharted 4. Just from your observation of the development of the series and from 2 and 3, do you think it's more is it easier or more difficult to just kind of leave a franchise behind, or to update a franchise? The infamous picture of what Drake looked like in Uncharted 3 versus now, it's almost like a completely different person. Is it easier to just leave the franchise behind and do something new in a new gen, or to continue the franchise moving forward?
Well, there were always pretty solid reasons in the past for us to move from franchise to franchise, and a lot of it was just the technological leaps between the consoles is really what dictated that. And even then, if you look at from PS1 to PS2, we're still doing cartoony platformers. We just went more open world. We changed a lot of things around. But I think the biggest shift was PS2 to PS3, just because it was all of a sudden, with the technology that we had, we could say, all right, we could tackle something that was a little bit more realistic, still going for stylized realism so we wouldn't hit the uncanny valley issue, and we're trying to stay away from that. And we're seeing the same sort of thing that you saw between PS1 and PS2 with PS3 and PS4. It's like, okay, like we can continue this. We really like where we're headed with going with having things grounded in a real world scenario, but still with a little bit of stylized realism to it, so you're not dealing with the uncanny valley. But it was basically just that. It's like, it sort of felt like, okay, here's an extension where we can do a lot of what we were already doing, but better, and throw in a lot more stuff behind it. And it was kind of more of an easier decision with all of that. I think for us, it probably going to have to take a bigger technological change for us to go, okay, like we just need to start from scratch, basically, and come up with something different. I mean, the engine's more or less the same. It's just something that we've iterated and updated up into the PS4 specs. It wasn't like a complete sort of overhaul of everything that we've experienced with other console generations.
Is it difficult to handle, all of the news that you have to handle for Uncharted 1 through 3 in this collection and Uncharted 4 at the same time? Like, when you go to events for one versus the other, like, do people kind of, I don't know, is it just difficult as someone who speaks to the community to speak to the community about two completely different projects at the same time?
Not really, because thankfully they all sort of fit within a narrative arc, and they're all, even though we've always tried to tell all three games as individual stories that you could play out of order if you wanted to, or only play one of them and still sort of feel like you knew the characters, it really creates a whole narrative arc behind it. So it makes it really easy to say, this just fits in, Uncharted 4 just fits into 1, 2, 3. You jump around and talk about all of it. You can sort of hint at, sort of how Drake's development as a character leads into 4. and things like that. So it makes it easier than saying, okay, we've got two games of completely different genres coming out around the same time. How do we talk about this?
Do you want to give us one of those hints about how?
Yeah, I was going to say, is there
Yeah.
anything specifically that...
Well, it leads into something that you already know about Uncharted 4, but it's behind the general idea. So as you go through all three Uncharted games, and especially with 3, you're learning more and more about Drake's past. You're learning that he's had secrets that he's kept from people who are really close to him, secrets that he's kept from you as a player, basically, that you're finding out. And you're peeling back these layers about what he's like as a person, sort of what his life could have been back there. And so with Sam, his brother, coming back out of nowhere, thought he was dead, it's setting up the story so that you can learn more about Drake's background and figure out, all right, what's really behind all these secrets that he's been keeping from people, and what does that mean for him as a person? What does it mean for what people think of him as a person too?
What do you think about the brother angle, Mr. Huber?
I love it because can we talk about spoilers, man? It's so intense. I don't like talking about spoilers, but there's some stuff in the Uncharted trilogy, like he was kind of saying about Drake's past and revealing it to people or not, and even people revealing stuff about his past to him. And going through it this time, I was thinking more because I had seen the brother in Uncharted 4. So it's really interesting knowing about Uncharted 4 and replaying these games. So.
You lost Ben. Ben's out.
No, I'm keeping track of the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been in chat. Ben's in chat.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good.
That was a very good
Ben's
job
in.
because you sounded like me when I usually go and do press for a game that doesn't have the story revealed, and you're thinking about how do I skirt around what I'm going to say.
I think that's the point when I was getting at. Yeah, is it tricky, kind of tiptoeing around stuff that you can say and stuff that you can't when it's just everything's Uncharted all over the place.
It makes it easier when you have the trilogy behind it, and you can talk a lot more specifically about what's been going on, and again, give those hints. So it makes it a lot easier to do that and avoid sort of heading into deep spoiler territory with Uncharted 4.
Speaking of heading into deep spoiler territory, let's go to questions from our our community.
Okay, none of these questions from the community are spoilers. They're all
I appreciate that, community.
they're all super nice. Yeah, okay. This is a fun one. We'll start with this. This is from apilot21. Being known as developers of mostly action adventure games, is there a genre that's outside of that you guys think you could really want to make, like a driving game or a board game or a dating sim? Where does Naughty Dog want to expand to?
I don't know about where we want to expand to, but
Yeah.
We've got a lot of people who are fans of a lot of the card games that are out there, but some of the really intense, like with deep game design mechanics behind it. So you see a lot of people playing tabletop games at the studio. That tends to be something that we've tried to do it with the Uncharted series. I know we've always tried to do it also with the Last of Us series. And one of the things that it ends up being something that we're really interested in, and we end up starting to be really focused and nitpicky about game design for those things. So I think tabletop is something we'd love to do.
And that's like an after hours, like once everybody's like done shutting their laptops down, they go and play a board game?
Yeah, sort of unofficially when we do have after hours, not when
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
not working hard in a game.
Sure.
But yeah, every once in a while, sometimes at lunch, you'll see people do it too. We've got people who do all sorts of hobby things on the side at lunch. Like there used to be like a sculpting group. We do things that really relate to what we do for games. So we have figure drawing once a week as well. So the
That's
artists,
cool.
but anybody else in the studio can go in and sort of work on that. And I think playing tabletop games fits right into that because you're learning about game design. You're thinking about all of that stuff too. But yeah, I saw a net hack on someone's desk somewhere. There's a game we picked up, Fiasco, which is a role-playing game. Which
Yes.
to this day we still haven't played.
Oh, you have to?
No.
Dude,
and I keep
it's so
saying, I keep telling
good.
people, I'm like, okay, we have the rule book, let's go play it, but it hasn't happened yet.
You should put it in front of a camera too.
It's amazing.
Yeah. You should absolutely do that.
So good.
Fiasco's we play Fiasco.
All right.
And it is fun. It's mostly for a narrative. It's like very
Yeah.
little game design in Fiasco.
We should
but
get them to
mostly,
sponsor this show. I mean, we should just get Fiasco on the phone.
Yeah, Bully Pulpit Games is just swimming in cash.
You know?
Yeah.
I think we're really moving the needle for those guys. That's all I'm saying.
I'll tweet at them.
I've publicly called everyone out for not playing Fiasco, so it's going to happen now.
Yeah,
nice.
absolutely. Please. Please do.
We'll clip that part out for you and send it to you.
Here's a question from Silent Planet 22. Most people consider Naughty Dog to be one of the best developers in the world. Is there a studio that Arne admires or looks up to?
Yeah, there are a bunch of studios, or at least people that we look up to. I once sort of got in trouble for joking about this before, but Miyamoto always is someone that you look up to in terms of what they've done for game design. He actually came by to see Uncharted 2 when we were doing it.
Really?
At E3, we're demoing it. He came by to see me demo it, which was really embarrassing because I died, and he watched me die. No pressure, have him watching it.
I'm sorry. Why did you get in trouble for that?
Because the question, well, it wasn't necessarily like in trouble for, it was the way I responded, which was basically like, who would you ever want to work for? And I said Miyamoto, and it was like, really, you don't want to work for us? Like,
Oh, that becomes a headline. Yeah.
That becomes a
absolutely,
headline.
Yeah.
And then I was just trying to say, well, he could always come work for Naughty Dog too. I'm sure there's a lot of people who'd love to sit down and chat with him there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some of it's like personal favorites. Like I really liked BioWare over the years, going back to Knights of the Old Republic, of course. Mass Effect series to me is. We were talking earlier. I don't play a lot of RPGs, but Mass Effect is one of the RPGs I've played a ton of, and I've always really liked going back to it. That's someone I guess I look up to.
Cool. I have a hard question for you. We should do this one. Get this one out of the way. This is from rfish3r. Maybe that's Fisher. R Fisher. 2 questions. Ask Arne if UC4 user stats from the beta will be carried over to the final release, like what happened in UC3, and will there be a report button for UC4 multiplayer? If yes, will it actually work this time?
All right.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're doing for a report button or that sort of thing. A lot of reporting players and things like that are being handled on the hardware side, so you can report players through the PSN sort of interface. So I don't know what we're doing there. It's a little early for us to figure that out. As far as carrying stats over, no decisions are made. I think a lot of it will have to come down to how close the beta is to the final game and what can carry over. Because the thing is, for us, because the beta is coming out in December, for us releasing the beta early is really meant to not only stress test servers, but also make any game design changes and things like that. So it wouldn't really make, if it's radical, it wouldn't make sense for us to carry stats over.
I hate it when stuff from the beta carries over, personally.
You want
I
a
was talking
clean
about this
slate?
with Huber earlier today. Yeah. Like, with Star Wars, like, none of that stuff should carry over. To me, that's crazy to think that, like, beta stuff should count.
Well, I guess if it's a demo, right? Like, one of the things for Uncharted 3 is when we were releasing multiplayer, it was really close to the release of the game. And so it sort of made sense because that was basically the final game. You just got a little bit of a head start, but everyone was able to play it one way or another. I think it really depends on how much the game changes between the beta or that sort of thing. But I'm going to bet, without having talked to anyone, that it's probably going to be a clean slate.
Cool. Let's go with an easier question then. I'm sorry, I've mixed them up. Oh yeah, this is a really funny question. This is from Ahab GT. Was the Uncharted Remastered trilogy created to shame or embarrass the God of War 3 remaster with its greater value? But to, I guess, ask that again more politely, like, how do you look at that? How do you look at that game that was 60 and then your game that is also 60 and like be like, yeah, we got a big package here. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I don't think there's no way to look at it. For us, it was like, we're going to create 3 games. We could fit it on one disc, and that's what the price point is for. I mean, we don't make the pricing decisions. We just say, hey, we're going to put our trilogy out. Yeah, I don't know. This is the part. This is the part where I wish I had a real life version of the Shruggy.
Yeah. Right. Do you ever have to talk to that community manager and be like, "Hey, your job's way harder than mine"? Do you ever like talk to other community manager or community?
We're going for a drink after this.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay. And you can just be like, "Oh man, sorry you had to sell God of War 3. Like my job rules." Is that about to happen, or is it more just like, you know? Do you never like take like that stuff like that seriously or out?
We never take that stuff seriously like that with each other. We're all the studios. We're all great friends. All the people that we know, all the studios, we're all great friends. So,
we have
we'll give each other crap when we need to.
We have a personal question from Phantom. Do you like Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door?
I haven't played that one, but I haven't finished. But I love Super Paper Mario. Really love that.
Then you gotta play You gotta play Thousand Year Door.
Okay.
Super Paper Mario is like one of the worst ones. It really is. You gotta play those other ones.
Was that on the Wii?
Yeah, the one that was on the Wii. I really like a lot of the game
one where
mechanics and stuff they were working on it. Yeah. It was
That's a good
flat.
one. Actually,
There was
that's
that
one.
level that looked very like retro, like pixely as well.
And with the iguana guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really love that. Okay.
I swear, everything you love about that game is inside of Thousand Year Door.
Okay. Well, I'll check that out.
Okay.
The problem is once you start working in games, you get
Right.
really limited time to actually play games.
Oh,
which is the whole
absolutely.
irony of it.
Your GameCube's not plugged in and powered
My
up, ready to go.
GameCube is plugged in, actually.
Really? What game is in the disc? What disc is in the console?
Skies of Arcadia.
That is so cool. That's all. You
And
said
you don't play RPGs.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few limited
deep
ones.
cut.
Skies
Yeah.
of Arcadia is one of them.
Wow. Mass
All those
Effect and
random
Knights,
airship
okay.
battles, because all those monsters appear out of thin air for some reason when you're in an airship, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Random. Well, there's Skies of Arcadia and Final Fantasy X were like the really RPGs I played first ever.
That's so
So
cool.
I guess not too bad.
And you still have it plugged in even. That's awesome. This is from Tall Guy Alec. Any advice for a recent PR grad looking to get in the video games industry?
So as a PR grad.
Yeah.
Definitely, it sounds very cliche, but like find a way to blog or write or get stuff published. Like the biggest thing for anyone that is going to work in any aspect of communications for anyone else to know is if you have sort of a unique tone of voice, are you comfortable in writing a certain way that doesn't sound artificial or doesn't sound like it's marketing, but also that's really individual to you, that you know, that I can tell, let's say if I was looking at his stuff, that you could tell that I know you as a person or I know something about you from it. And obviously they communicate clearly and authentically and all of that. So that's a huge one, is basically to do that. And the other part's experience, especially as a PR grad. I'm sure he knows it's like you have to get internships, you have to start getting experience. Like everyone's just going to look for that over a degree or anything else pretty much.
What do you think Naughty Dog saw in you?
I really don't know. That's a really great question. I'm hoping. I never asked this question. It seems like
Yeah.
a personal question. To go, waltz into Evan's office one day and sort of be like, "So, what did you guys see in me?"
Yeah. No, you can't ever do that. No, you just have to. You gotta, assume all those things.
Yeah. No, I mean, if I look at what I did for my career, and our recruiter called me up when I was working at Vivendi Games for Sierra, and what I did, a lot of it was that I was coming in and either building a community team or a community group from scratch, or basically being one of the first people that was working on that sort of thing. I started working on Xbox back in 2000, and back then, like, community was basically like hang out in forums or fan sites, and we took that a little bit further. For 360, we had a huge team. Well, not a huge team, but we had a sizable team that was really sort of taking that to a new height in terms of what you're doing. When I went into Sierra, there was no such thing beyond the Sierra Online part that was working on online games or MMOs. So there wasn't a real concentrated business of it. So I think that's probably what they saw. I knew they were working on multiplayer at that point. So they were trying to say, okay, we're going to have this huge online community. I think I probably gave them some critiques on the website. I think you can probably find it on the Wayback Machine, but if you look at our website prior to 2007, it's like in Flash. It's like really, like, it's not that great.
So in the interview, you were like, "This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is what I would fix. This is what I would bring."
I probably wasn't that direct, but
You weren't-
I was probably being a little bit.
You weren't this guy?
I was trying to be a little bit nicer, but I mean, I came in and I think that when people ask you, when you go to interviews and they're asking you, "Oh, like, do you have any questions for us?" or things like that, like, you also want to come in and say, here's things I could do for you, or
Yeah.
here's things I thought you could do better. When I look back on it, I thought maybe I was a little arrogant, but I was critiquing them on like what I didn't like about Drake's Fortune and like stuff like that before I even knew what they were working on. So thankfully, maybe they thought I was okay with what I told them.
Yeah, actually, so I have a personal question that I'm personally curious about. A community strategist is your job title. Like,
Yeah.
what is that? What is the strategy? What do you do?
Well, kind of the idea is, and even when I started, community didn't have there wasn't a real progression sort of way to titles or how people did. It was like community manager. You could be a senior community manager. What did that mean? And as over time, and one of the things I'd always been working on is sort of, I always do more than just working with our community. I've done aspects of digital PR, which was basically working with, I always find this really funny, but it was like working with Joystick and Gadget and Kotaku before the actual PR teams were paying attention to them, because they were all, like, can you imagine a time when like in Gadget and Gizmodo were like small sites that a PR team would be like, oh, they're too small, we don't deal with them. But like that was a time where we'd focus on that. But a lot of the things now, like I'm involved with licensing, and so the idea is that at this point, I guess I'm looking at a macro view of everything that we're doing as far as communications. And communication sounds kind of old too, and I think has some old school, I guess, subtext behind it that some people might have ideas of what that really means, and perhaps with marketing where it's less authentic. My point is, it's like I always want to have authentic things to say to people. I always want to try to keep it real and sort of make it feel like people are talking to people inside the studio, or that the studio is listening to them if I take it to other people. But yeah, the whole point is, it's like we're taking a more of a macro view of everything that's happening, and we're trying to really sort of, like I said, take things that are happening with our community and happening outside and actually guide either how we're saying about our games, or how we're actually developing games inside the studio. So it's not managing a community, which sounds like you're sort of making sure that they're happy.
Damage control,
goes
things like
beyond
that. Yeah.
So it goes beyond that. But it's just a really subtle thing, but I think it's one of those things where it makes it easier to perhaps imagine what you're doing, but obviously I have to explain it to you, so
Yeah.
it didn't really work out that well.
Well, can I tell you what I imagine? I imagine that you have a timeline for Uncharted 4 of like when you're going to drop things and things like that, and just like maps of like when do I reveal this, when do I reveal things like that.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
that's pretty much what happens. I do have sort of like timeline calendars that I've sometimes pasted on my queue, but I don't do a really good job at looking at them pretty often. So they're like now on my like phone, on my calendar. The only way I can pay attention to dates.
Yeah. So then you like get an alert and you're like, oh shoot, I got to tell everybody about this new character in the game, like that.
Not quite like that, but pretty close. It was like, oh yeah, like this is coming out, at the end of the week, or we want to do a Twitch stream in like 2 weeks, and so make sure that there's stuff in the calendar that leads up to all the planning that goes behind that.
Are you going to Paris Games Week?
I am going to Paris Games Week.
What is that going to be? That's like,
I don't know. We're going to see. So I'm going to go see what Sony's trying to do. I think Shuhei the other day was talking about.
it's going to be on Gamescom scale, is what he said.
Yeah, it's Gamescom scale. So that's what I'm curious to see. That's what I'm heading out to see what they're trying to do.
So you don't even know.
No idea.
It's hard to strategize in this moment.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a hint that it's big. I've
Sure.
seen some floor plans. I've seen some ideas, but I don't know about like even for E3. Like sometimes I get an idea of what announcements are coming up ahead of time, and I got to stay really quiet about it. Sometimes you're sitting there going like the C3, like, oh, I know what we're going to talk about. But I like they've been pretty tight-lipped with what's coming out for Paris Games Week, so I'm going to be in the audience, pleasantly surprised, I think, with everyone.
So you're hinting that ahead of E3, you knew Last Guardian was going to be there.
Yeah, I knew about Horizon Last Guardian, like leading up to a couple weeks before E3.
Very cool. Oh man. Can I get one more question in?
Sure.
This
well,
is-
you yourself are asking lots of questions.
I know.
You
I'm
should
sorry.
probably get
I'm
one
sorry,
more in.
everybody at home. I'm taking all your questions.
I have a question. It's a quick one.
Okay.
What are the odds of Naughty Dog making Half-Life 3?
So, funny enough, over 2 weeks on tour, nobody asked me that. And my coworker who went to Russia did get asked that. So the Russians really like Half-Life 3. No one else did. Probably 0 to none. But it'd be really great.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere in between 0 to none, there's like that chance
Yeah.
bar right there.
Yeah. Ian also had a question.
Yeah. Is there another Crash Bandicoot, or what's the deal?
Oh boy.
Activision owns that.
They do?
Yeah, they own Crash Bandicoot.
They
so.
suck.
But they
They're
worked on a
fine.
bunch of them. I worked on one, so don't say
Really?
that. I worked on Crash Bandicoot Mind Over Matter.
I meant Activision.
Oh, 'cause you were at
not
Vivendi.
I was at Vivendi,
Yeah.
So
I
worked
love
with-
Crash Bandicoot.
with Radical on that.
Oh
Do you-
well.
How many of those people how many people at Activision know that they have Crash Bandicoot?
Probably a good number. The
Okay.
legal team definitely knows.
Sure.
Because we reached out to them to put it in the Art of Naughty Dog, so they were definitely made aware that they have. Just in case they didn't know.
Did you get to another question, or are we?
We had two more from
do it. Let's
real
do it.
life
We're
people.
squeezing in.
Okay, this is from Genius Envy. In a story-driven game, are you tempted to change any story beats in a remake to change things up?
Definitely not. No, I mean, one of the things that we know from playing all the games is it's such a delicate balance between pacing and story and stuff like that. And even people talk about plot holes in Uncharted Drake's Fortune, and earlier we were talking about how Uncharted 3 sort of felt uneven when you play through it. There is a temptation maybe that you want to try to address those, but you have to look back at it and at the end of the day say, you know what, like we created something that was really satisfying at the time, that was, we were satisfied enough to ship it, and it had a particular pacing and a particular story behind it. The moment you start fiddling with that, then like it changes everything. Like I had a question where or asking if we would ever put in like a deleted scene, like when you have movies do remakes or things like that, or a director's cut. And it's like, well, if you do that, you're gonna mess up the entire pacing that we worked so hard to craft on. So at the end of the day, it just comes down to thinking about, all right, well, we've set a story that we've told, we like it, there's particular pacing, don't touch it.
Sorry.
I just had to say, one of my favorite things to do in any video game is to walk through a jungle with Sully.
And I just want to point out and apologize to Arne that we selected the darkest moments, just color-wise, brightness-wise. I don't know if you guys have been able to see a lot of the gameplay at home over our shoulder beneath the desk.
I've had it on.
Uncharted 2, little
bottom.
yeah, little dark at the beginning. A little hard to see what's going on there. Lots of stealth,
They
lots
can
of
see
lasers.
it on the screen though. I've got it on the bottom of their screens. See.
One of Huber's favorite things to do in any video game is go through a jungle with Sully.
That was my favorite
If
part.
Sully
of
was an
Dark Souls.
MGS3, way better, way better.
Is it just for the quips though? Sully's got some good quips, and especially
Got a lot of quips.
especially when he goes through the jungle.
He's a companion, just like a father figure. Just love him.
Learning a lot about Huber.
Yeah.
Personally, the quips are my favorite thing about the whole series. I mean, the action's great. Like a lot of the set piece moments, really great. But and Last of Us as well. This is one of the big things I took from that, was just
Yeah.
like those unexpected moments where you're like really believing that these are two people in an environment talking, and so.
But they are.
Yeah.
That's how we record.
Yeah, and that's really, I think what you guys are really known for is creating those realistic moments, and just we're still. It's still a video game character. You look at Drake and he's still that's a guy created for a video game. But man, we are getting close. You guys are, just foraging, throwing grappling hooks across that uncanny valley and dragging us closer and closer. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to talk really quickly about just some stuff that you can check out. Are you good on questions, Kyle? Is there anything?
I just want to say thanks to everybody who sent me questions. Sorry
Yeah.
we couldn't get to all of them. I injected a lot of my own, which is unprofessional, but I got out of hand. And I apologize.
Lots to talk about. We talked about the top 10 NES games. Part 2 is coming out this week. You can watch Part 1 right now, 20 through 11, if you want to check that out. Huber Hype's happening. First 15 is happening this week instead of Final Bosman.
Those are both up already.
Both up. You can check them out. Mandatory Update is happening, correct, Ian? Voice of Ian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regular episode this week, I think.
GT Time is happening. I will not be on GT Time tomorrow. I will be heading out of town to do something.
Now
for
you
GT Time.
you did not tell me up until this very moment.
There it is, buddy.
Okay.
Wait a minute. I got this wrench somewhere. Where's that wrench? Oh, there you go.
Thanks. All right.
We got lots of Mr. Daniel Bloodworth could not be joining us because he's working on all sorts of fun previews that I cannot tell you about, but they're coming up later this week. We're definitely going to be doing some kind of postmortem on Battlefront. We're playing a ton of that right now, so we'll be talking about that later on. Mr. Mike Huber reviewed Transformers Devastation, and we put a review for that. We chatted a little bit about Metal Gear Online. Mr. Ben Moore led that conversation, and there are more Super Mario Maker levels coming with Dawn. And we are still putting that package together. Don, who's in the we don't have the camera, but Don is in the back of the booth there.
He's behind
built some
me.
amazing Super Mario Maker levels.
He's also in a phenomenal suit. It's sequined,
Oh yeah, both of you guys your suits are real
bright
nice.
orange suit.
I'm really sorry that and we're running out of time on the show, so I'd ask you to come out here and show everybody, but there's just, we're running out of time.
No time.
And probably more than anything, the GT Battle of the Bands, Rock Band 4 Monday night. We brought in 3 bands from out of town. They challenged each other. We determined a winner, and of course, all of that got muted on Twitch. But you can check out the full version, which is on our GT Reviews channel, I believe. So you can check out
YouTube,
youtube.com/Game Trailers and GT Reviews. And we're playing more Battlefront tomorrow, and Resident Evil 4 full playthrough Friday with Mr. Mike Huber over there. He's going to play through the entirety of Resident Evil 4 because he's just crazy about that. He just latches himself onto franchises, and Uncharted is one of them. So, well done with the collection. Looking forward to Uncharted 4, and thank you for coming in to chat.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
You mentioned you were just wrapping up a trip. Are there any trips you want people to know? Any place people can find fun Uncharted things happening? Are they all done?
No, there's some more stuff coming up this year, not for Uncharted 4, but I can't talk about it yet. But
Okay.
I guess if you check Naughty Dog Twitter account or my Twitter account, I can't confirm something that might happen, but it's set. So there's a couple of cool things coming up.
And people can find you at Arnie Meyer. We have your lower.
Yeah, at
Bring
Arnie
it in.
Meyer.
Let's just hit it.
Is my
Let's hit
Twitter.
it. Here it comes. Is it coming? Oh yeah, nice. There we go.
All right.
But wait,
Yeah.
how do we follow Naughty Dog?
At Naughty_Dog.
Okay.
So check there, check my Twitter account and you'll see my travels. Sometimes you'll see a lot of food pictures, but
It's worth it.
You'll also know what I'm up to.
Well, if you're in Europe, yeah, I want to see what you're eating. Sure. Do you want to see what he's eating if he goes to Europe?
I gotta be honest, not really. I'm not way into food pics, but tweet what is you. Tweet like that's what everybody wants to see is your own personal self.
You've been very you on this episode of GT Live. We appreciate it. Thank you for coming in. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next week.